A cold Australian morning. Bills stacked on a kitchen bench. A half-finished coffee going cold. A man staring at a bank statement, doing the maths again. And again. Not because he was lazy. Not because he didn't work hard enough. But because something in the system didn't add up. Australians were earning money, yet somehow staying trapped. Now here's the strange part. The man who would eventually change how hundreds of thousands of Australians think about money didn't start by promising private jets, Lamborghinis, or overnight millions. He didn't walk into the spotlight screaming about secret stock picks or impossible crypto gains. He came with something much more dangerous. Something so simple most people ignored it the first time they heard it. And that simplicity would make him one of the most influential financial voices in Australia. Before we dive in, I want to know something. What city are you watching from? Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane, or somewhere far outside Australia? Drop your city in the comments. And tell me honestly, what's the biggest financial mistake you think Australians make today? If you enjoy content about investing, financial freedom, and smart money habits, hit subscribe and give this video a quick like. Because Scott Pape didn't become famous by telling people what they wanted to hear. He became famous by telling them what they desperately needed to hear. Long before the Barefoot Investor became one of Australia's best-selling finance books. Before millions of copies, before sold-out speaking events, before ordinary Aussies started reorganizing their bank accounts because of his advice. Scott Pape saw something most financial experts missed. Fear. You could smell it during market crashes. You could hear it in late-night conversations around family dinner tables. Mortgage repayments. Credit cards. Car loans. Buy now, pay later. Superannuation confusion. Investment paralysis. Australians weren't just struggling with money. They were emotionally exhausted by it. And Scott Pape knew something uncomfortable. Most people don't fail financially because they lack intelligence. They fail because money feels overwhelming. Too complicated. Too noisy. Too emotional. Think about the Australian stock market for a moment. The ASX. Numbers flashing across screens. Headlines screaming panic one week and euphoria the next. Dividend yields. ETFs. Index funds. Mining stocks. Bank shares. Super portfolios. To beginners, it can feel like walking into a casino where everyone else already knows the rules. That's where Scott Pape took a different path. Not flashy. Not complicated. Different. He leaned into behavioral finance before many ordinary Australians even knew the term existed. Because money, he argued, isn't mainly about spreadsheets. It's about behavior, habits, systems, protection. And that idea would quietly reshape how an entire generation approached wealth. But here's the twist most people miss. Scott Pape didn't tell Australians to ignore investing. Far from it. He believed investing mattered deeply. Long-term investing. Patient investing. The kind of investing that feels boring when everyone else is chasing excitement. And in a world addicted to quick wins, boring can feel almost rebellious. Picture the scene. Market volatility hits. News anchors speak faster. Red numbers flash across screens. Someone opens their portfolio app at 11:42 p.m. and watches thousands disappear in days. Panic rises in the chest. Hands sweat. The mind starts whispering dangerous words. Sell. Scott Pape's philosophy stood in direct opposition to that emotional spiral. Build systems. Automate. Reduce noise. Think long-term. Protect yourself from yourself. Simple advice? Yes. Easy to follow? Not always. Because human beings are emotional creatures. And emotional creatures often make emotional investment decisions. That's exactly why so many people buy near market highs and sell during fear. Scott Pape knew this cycle intimately. Not because he invented market psychology. Because he understood ordinary Australians. Tradies. Teachers. Nurses. Parents juggling bills and school fees. People who wanted financial freedom but felt locked out of the investing conversation. That understanding became one of his greatest strengths. He translated finance into plain language. No corporate jargon. No intellectual flexing. Just practical frameworks people could actually use. And suddenly something interesting happened. Money became less intimidating. But the deeper message hiding beneath his advice was even more powerful. Freedom isn't built through financial perfection. It's built through consistent action. Small actions. Repeated relentlessly. That's where Scott Pape's influence exploded. Because while social media promised shortcuts, he talked about foundations, emergency funds, controlled spending, smart use of bank accounts, super. That emotional layer changes everything. Because most financial mistakes don't begin with spreadsheets. They begin with beliefs. And Australia carries one powerful financial belief almost nobody questions. Earn more. Everything improves. Logical. Popular. Comforting. But reality doesn't always cooperate. Because earning more money and building real wealth are not automatically the same thing. That distinction became central to Scott Pape's message. Imagine a young professional in Sydney. Promotion. Salary increase. Celebration drinks. Relief. Finally, maybe life gets easier. Then weeks pass. Lifestyle upgrades begin quietly. Better apartment. Better car. Better furniture. More subscriptions. More financial commitments. Income rises. Pressure returns. Different numbers. Same anxiety. This pattern has a name. Lifestyle inflation. And it quietly destroys financial progress for countless Australians. Scott Pape repeatedly challenged this cycle. Not by attacking ambition. By asking a harder question. Are you building wealth? Or building expensive obligations disguised as success? That question hurts. Because modern money culture rewards appearance. Luxury signals. Consumption. Visible success. The pressure to look like you're winning. Scott Pape moved against that current. Wealth isn't performance. Wealth is breathing room. Resilience. Choice. Time. The ability to face uncertainty without financial collapse waiting outside your front door. And uncertainty always comes. Market corrections. Interest rate increases. Unexpected job losses. Medical emergencies. Economic slowdowns. During those moments, appearance offers very little protection. And Scott Pape understood this deeply. That's why his philosophy often began somewhere less glamorous than aggressive investing. Protection. Margins. Control. Financial foundations. Before chasing extraordinary returns, build stability. Simple advice. But simplicity is deceptive. Because simple doesn't mean emotionally easy. Humans crave excitement. Fast results. Certainty. The financial industry understands this perfectly. Look at modern money culture. Headlines screaming urgency. Social media gurus promising shortcuts. Hot stocks. Fast profits. Fear. Greed. Noise. Endless noise. Somewhere inside that chaos, ordinary Australians are trying to make decisions about their future. Invest. Wait. Buy. Sell. Panic. Hope. Scott Pape's approach felt radically different. Long-term thinking. Behavioral systems. Reduced complexity. Reduced emotional self-destruction. At first glance, almost boring. But boring has a hidden advantage. Boring survives. The truth is, boring doesn't sell very well in modern finance. Patience doesn't trend. Discipline doesn't go viral. Slow wealth creation rarely gets millions of views. But Scott Pape understood something most people learn too late. Boring survives. And survival matters. Especially in investing. Especially in Australia. Think about the ASX. Think about long-term investing. Think about dividend-paying companies quietly generating income year after year while markets rise, fall, panic, recover, and panic again. That's not exciting. That's exactly the point. Because investing is not mainly an intelligence game. It's an emotional game. And emotions destroy more portfolios than bad math ever will. Picture the scene. Late night. Phone screen glowing. Market headlines everywhere. Red numbers. ASX volatility. Someone opens their investment account. Instant stomach drop. Internal panic begins. Should I sell? Should I wait? What if this gets worse? What if I lose everything? That moment matters more than most people realize. Because wealth is often determined not by what people know, but by how they behave during uncertainty. Scott Pape repeatedly pushed Australians toward this uncomfortable truth. You're not just fighting the market. You're often fighting yourself. fear, impatience, comparison, overconfidence, lifestyle pressure, the constant temptation to abandon long-term plans for short-term emotional relief. That's where financial discipline becomes brutally difficult, because everyone loves long-term investing until the short-term becomes painful. Everyone believes in patience until fear shows up. Everyone talks about freedom until they must choose between looking wealthy and actually becoming wealthy. Scott Pape's message kept returning to a quieter idea: build systems stronger than your emotions. That sounds simple, almost too simple. But simple ideas survive because they reflect human reality. And human reality is messy. People overspend when stressed. People avoid finances when overwhelmed. People chase certainty when afraid. People make emotional money decisions while convincing themselves they're being rational. Scott Pape didn't ignore human behavior. He built around it. That's one reason the Barefoot Investor connected so deeply across Australia. It wasn't just financial advice. For many readers, it felt like relief. Permission to simplify. Permission to stop pretending. Permission to build financial security without becoming obsessed with complexity. Because complexity can be comforting. Complexity creates the illusion of control. But complicated doesn't always mean effective. Sometimes the strongest financial strategy is surprisingly ordinary. Spend intentionally. Protect downside risk. Avoid lifestyle traps. Invest patiently. Think long-term. Repeat. Not glamorous. Powerful. And maybe that's the deeper reason Scott Pape's message resonated across Australia. He challenged a dangerous cultural assumption: the idea that financial freedom automatically arrives if you keep doing what everyone else is doing. Work harder. Earn more. Upgrade life. Stay busy. Hope things improve. Repeat. For millions of Australians, that cycle never creates freedom. It creates maintenance. Constant maintenance. Bigger income. Bigger obligations. Bigger repayments. Bigger pressure. Same internal anxiety. Different packaging. Scott Pape asked people to confront a difficult question. What if you've been climbing the wrong ladder? What if success, the version sold by modern money culture, isn't actually leading where you think? Because real wealth rarely looks the way advertising presents it. Sometimes real wealth looks quiet. Emergency savings sitting untouched. Investments compounding quietly in the background. Lower stress. More flexibility. More time. More options. The ability to handle uncertainty without financial panic controlling every decision. That kind of wealth rarely gets applause. But it changes lives. It changes families. It changes futures. And perhaps that's the biggest money lie Scott Pape exposed in Australia. Not that people need bigger salaries. Not that they need perfect market timing. Not that they need secret investment tricks. The deeper lie is simpler. People are taught to chase the appearance of success, while quietly sacrificing the foundations of financial freedom. Scott Pape challenged that story. Relentlessly. Quietly. Practically. And for many Australians, that challenge changed everything. Because real financial freedom isn't built through one dramatic breakthrough. It's built through ordinary decisions repeated over time. A budget followed when nobody is watching. An investment contribution made during uncertainty. A lifestyle upgrade resisted. A long-term plan maintained when emotions demand immediate action. Thousands of small decisions. Quiet decisions. Boring decisions. The kind that rarely look impressive in the moment. Until years pass. Until pressure drops. Until options expand. Until fear loses its grip. And maybe, just maybe, that's what Scott Pape was trying to tell Australians all along. The biggest money lie in Australia isn't that wealth is impossible. It's that freedom comes automatically. It doesn't. It must be built. Deliberately. Patiently. Emotionally. One decision at a time.